Hi, welcome to another edition of Reflections. I'm your host, Deontay Brewer. Today, I'm delighted to welcome Alex, aka Mr. Are You, to share a chair with me and give us some insight on his artistry, musical ability as a musician and singer and songwriter and producer here in Fort Wayne. So let's welcome Alex to the show. And as always, remember to be bold, be you, be blessed. God bless. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for sharing.
Girl, you're hard to understand. It's like there's a door between us. Yeah. So how about you let me open it once and for all. I'm the key to your life. Let's unlock this chastity. Girl, you found the right key. That be drinking in the fat to be teasing. Let me still be pleasing. Walked away from me. I'm the key to your life. Let's unlock this chastity. Girl, I got the right key. That be jangling. You've been locked up for too long. You've been gonna break free and fly away with me. I play the fifth fret. Let it be the G string.
Hi, today on this episode of Reflections, I am interviewing local musician, producer, singer, and songwriter, Mr. Are You. His given name is Alex. So welcome, Alex.
Hi, how's it going?
It's going. Thank you so much for being here today
course,
with us.
course.
First of all, we want to know, where did that stage name come from, Mr. Are You? It's very unique and has a life and personality of its own. So where did that come from?
Well, I mean, it was really, I think a lot of artists come up with their names subconsciously. And for me, it wasn't anything that was really thought of with intent to come up with an artist name. So I think one day I was just thinking of, the name popped up into my head and I
Okay.
figured that might be a good stage name.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's very vague and doesn't
Okay.
have a lot of identity to it. So
Okay.
I can really customize it with any desire I want. So I think it's
Okay.
a really fitting name regarding the variety of music that one can produce and write.
Okay, because a lot of musicians, the name, sometimes it's a variation of a first name or a last name, or maybe the name doesn't, their label head will say, well, this name doesn't quite fit you, or it's not going to fit the music you're going to market and perform. And so you're saying yours is kind of vague and it doesn't really have, an identity to it, so you can kind of tailor it, either way to which genre of music.
Right.
Okay. Very, very neat. So you were telling me earlier that you have a gig coming up here in Fort Wayne.
Yeah, I have a show coming up at The Ruin on Main Street.
Okay.
And that should be on, I think, this upcoming Sunday, the 22nd,
Okay.
at 7 p.m.
At 7 p.m. at the Ruin on Broadway. Okay, here in Fort Wayne. And what type?
Or on, I think it's on Main Street.
I'm sorry,
Oh,
Main
yeah.
Street. The
Okay.
Ruin on Main Street. I'm sorry. And what type of, or what can an audience member expect from Mista?
The live version, I think, is, it's definitely different from when an artist does, their studio work.
Yes.
I think the live music captures what the studio masters can't
Okay.
achieve, and I think that's what makes great artists is if your studio music through the headphones or your car speakers can sound like you're in a concert and you're experiencing it face to face. I think that's unbeatable. But for now, when you haven't really trying to think how to say it, when you haven't really achieved that yet, I think live music is the best way to reach out to an audience and give
Yes.
them the experience that they wouldn't have
Yes.
while listening to your music.
Now, I'm not a trained musician or I sing. I like to sing, but I
Yeah.
know artists. I've brought their studio recordings, but then live, when you hear it and when you see it, it's kind of more unrestrained. You know, they're it's live. They come alive on stage.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they break free from confines of the
Yeah.
studio when they may do an extended version of a song or it's more unrestrained. So at this gig, are you going to, as I stated I introduced you, you're a producer, and you're a singer and songwriter. Are you going to be performing some of your works there at this show? You're going to be performing, singing,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I will be.
Okay. And so you heard that, audience. We want you to come out on Sunday, the 22nd, to the Ruin on Main Street, and come see this live wire, this instrument right here, Mister. Okay. So tell us, how long have you been performing? How long have you been a musician?
I started doing live shows when I was 18. and
Okay.
then, from there on out, it's just been a learning experience.
Okay.
So I've been doing live shows for about 2-ish to 3-ish years.
Okay.
And seen a lot.
Okay. Now, prior to your career, at 18, as a child, were you into music? Did you play an instrument or piano? Did you sing in a choir at school?
I think it was always in the back of my head, but I never really had access to it or a gateway. So
Okay.
it was never really, in the thought process too much. But I always really loved music. I always enjoyed it. I always tried to find that outlet. But if it wasn't there, it wasn't. I wasn't really pursuing it until about middle school. I started playing saxophone.
The saxophone.
Yeah.
Okay. In middle school.
It was the first. It was the OG instrument, and then from there on out, started playing bass.
Okay. So, what piece was there? Like a piece that you enjoyed playing the most?
I wish I could give you an answer to that, but I'm not too. It was mostly concert music, concert pieces that I was playing saxophone on.
Nice.
And, I wasn't. I hadn't heavily, obtained, a palette of music taste at the time. So there wasn't a lot that I was playing saxophone parts of. It was really just, school, learning music, and then it wasn't until bass that I started, pursuing, let me plug my headphones in and listen to this track and play the bass line. And
now that's with the saxophone too, right? Your bass, or that's not guitar, moving over to the guitar? When you're saying bass, what do you mean by that?
I mean bass guitar.
Okay, yeah, right.
My fault.
Yes.
So bass guitar was the second instrument I started with.
Okay.
And from there on out, I've been, dabbling with it and really finding my home there.
Okay. So as a musician, Alex, do you like more the production side, of music, or do you like more the vocal?
I'm starting to love all of it. I think once you learn how to do it, everything, in the process, it's really, it's like you're on another planet when you're making stuff, and you go and you record it, and you're writing the songs, you're recording them, you're editing them and mixing, and then so I think doing a lot of it is there's not a they're all their separate processes, and I don't think I could pick a favorite.
Okay.
Some are easier than others, but I tend to like being able to do all of them. You know,
Okay.
it's really fun. So.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Um, and so that would lead into the next question. The instruments, you know, that you play. You said that you started out with a saxophone.
Yeah.
And with bass guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Being a producer, I would assume you have to be proficient with the keyboard, or don't you all make beats?
Somewhat.
Okay.
I think this day and age, it's gotten easier for I think producers and people who are ambitious and passionate about music, such as me. I'm not the greatest keyboard player, but I can
Okay.
tell you what, I can compose incredible chord progressions
Okay.
and songs like that, but it might not be in one sitting. It might be, you know, let me play this little section and
Okay.
edit it and then play the next one. You know,
Okay.
it's baby steps, and once you really you have to, you know, pursue it if you're looking to be a keyboard player. So I technically don't refer to myself as a keyboardist.
Okay.
I would not be able to go on stage or even in my my studio and play a song or a piano suite
Okay.
or suite.
Okay.
Suite. Is it?
Yeah. I know how
know
it's
which one
spelled.
it
Yeah, I
is.
know what you're saying. Okay, so like when you, or not you, when I'm watching television sometimes and I see behind the scenes, you know, I see the singer in the booth and they have the
Yeah.
production, you know, they have this massive board, Alex, with all these buttons, and it's like,
Yeah, it's terrifying at first, and then you learn that most of the buttons are pretty much the same.
okay,
So
okay,
yeah, mixing, you know, engineering audio is I think that's what's so fascinating
yeah,
about it to me is it looks so complex,
it
but
does.
once you master the art, it really becomes a very freeing thing to work with, because there's so many different ways to tailor and customize audio
Yes.
to what
Yes.
you're looking for.
Yes.
And I think that's why I love mixing and the audio engineering so much, is
Yeah.
you can play around with so many different things and get so many different results.
Yes, as you said, you know, it's a freeing, and you know, and that includes producing, arranging, mixing, you know, all of
Yeah.
it. I mean, like I said, I see that large board, and you know, they the singer has a voice, but they can, you know, kind of help build the singer's voice or the sound, you know, centered around the voice, and it seems so interesting. And you know, I love the singing part of it, you know,
Yeah.
and the voice has to be there and on point, you know, and but I think a lot of times, well, now, you know, nowadays people are given more, they give props to those people
Yeah,
behind the studio
for sure.
people. Yeah, the engineers,
I've
as you
noticed
said.
it a lot more.
Yeah. And I'd like to learn, you know, that board. And I think of one of my favorite musicians, and back in the 70s, he did a song, and it just sounded at that time, it was so, I think, like new for its time. And it was the production, you know, that I think his guitar player had, the singer wrote the song, but the guitar player put the production around. And oh my God, disco, this was during the disco era.
Disco era.
And so then, you know, you have the song and then the video, you know, it all comes to life, as you
Oh,
said, with those
yeah.
baby steps.
The
He started
visuals
out
and-
with the baby steps, the lyrics, and then the, you know, production work, you know, behind it. And then the video, and that song just came to life, and just visually, I mean, on screen, it looked great. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, that's good. So, next, so to the next question, or part of still this question with, you know, instrumentation, and was there a song, you know, as a young person, you know,
Oh,
when you were
yeah.
younger, that, you know, really resonated and moved you, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, Move is funny because it was. I think there was a variety of songs, and I think one of them that there was a couple. I remember one was "Love" by Keisha Cole.
Okay.
And that was, I remember hearing that, and I think I heard it once at like maybe 4 or 5, and then I heard it a couple years back for the first time, and it was just nostalgic, just flooding in because it was crazy.
Yeah.
And then there was "The Way You Move" by Outkast.
Okay.
That was one of the first songs that I remember hearing on the radio, and I have such a vivid memory of it, and I think
because you're 20, Alex, 20 years old, born in 2002.
2.
So those songs were the early 2000 songs. I distinctly remember Keisha Cole and the song. They played it all the time.
Oh yeah.
And at that time, to me, I like Keisha Cole now, but she wasn't, my ideal of, a typical singer. I like the divas, and she, but the message, but they played it. And it was on urban radio when you had all these kids. I remember in my family, little girls singing it and just baying, singing the song. And I was like, oh, God. And then Outkast, I Like the Way You Move, was very popular, and people danced to it, and it was on the radio when.
Oh, it was such a massive, that and Hey Ya and.
Oh yeah.
Roses.
Oh God, Roses, yeah.
The whole album, I go back to probably each and every day.
And they, producing, and partnership, both of them complemented each other.
Yeah,
very well.
Sure.
What was it? Big Boy.
Big Boy and Andre 3000.
And 3000 now. Was he more, I think he was the singer more, right? Out front.
Yeah, I mean, they both were super talented at rapping, and the skill they had was just phenomenal. I mean, like I said, I go back to Outkast every day. That's
okay. And I think with they were doing something, the look, was different.
Oh, it was so different.
It was different.
Time, yeah.
Did that influence you, Alex, as far as with your
For sure.
Because I know you, and we've talked prior to this interview. I know that your wardrobe is a part of your musicianship, and they were. Outkast was so. I just remember, during that time, this is 2004 and 5, the rappers dominated the airwaves and television, with the oversized shirts and
it all began there.
The jeans that sagged and the Timberland boots and the Air Force Ones, and then, and 90% of these rappers were African American, and then you have Outkast and they're African American males as well, and Andre 3000 would have something tied around his head. He wore his hair permed, which was popular amongst African American men in the 70s, but this is 30 years later. And I mean, I was very creative, and going against the grain and saying, this is me, and so very neat, very neat. What is your favorite genre of music to perform?
To perform. I mean, I'm not really sure. I think
to play or to listen to. Yeah, your favorite.
I think when it comes to
genre.
performing, it's really about the demographic and what songs are we choosing for the feel, and I say we because I tend to play with a backing band.
Yes.
To get that live experience, flowing and capturing, those feels and whatnot. You pick and choose throughout the discography, but I think listening to, I tend to like a lot of R&B, neo soul, funk, and I think my whole day is usually composed of morning to night, just listening to music, trying to find new things, listening to old music old as in songs that I've, discovered forever ago, but, they're just so classic.
Sure.
So yeah, that's I usually I listen to some alternative,
Okay.
some electronic,
Okay.
even some like foreign music and stuff.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm really big on foreign metal. Foreign metal is really good.
I've never heard of that.
So just I've listened to some like Guatemalan metal and Japanese metal
Okay. How does it
and
differ
Brazilian
from?
rock. I think music is a language in itself, as they say, and I think that languages have such an impact on how you hear stuff. You might not be able to understand some of what they're saying, but it holds such a different emotion and texture when you're speaking maybe Japanese versus English. So I tend to I think cater to those genres rather than I think American.
Okay.
So.
Now, speaking of foreign, when you said foreign, I thought of Hiroshima was a group in the 80s and 90s, and they were Japanese, but they were, they had a American fan base, and it was instrumental music, and it was a lot of those instruments were just very relaxing. I see your T-shirt has instrumental on it, and so I think of Hiroshima, and it sounds, and I'm not trying to be funny, but you would think of a piano being tuned at first. So, but I mean, it was I think they may have done some videos, because this is 35 years ago, but Hiroshima, I believe, were one of the first foreign groups, modernly that made it, that had a fan base here. And so when you talked about, you said foreign, metal, and then the group's Guatemalan, and I thought of Hiroshima. And so it just, and there were no lyrics. It was just, they had the song title, but it was all instrumental music. And that's what made it different, because growing up, I always heard music, the lyrics, and Kenny G would be another artist that was an instrumentalist, world renowned, iconic, and but
instrumental music goes really far. You don't always need lyrics or vocals to create a song that has powerful emotions, and I think that's because people tend to not see vocals as an instrument. They think that it's just beat vocals, and they're not really. That's not really how it works. You've got some songs don't have piano, some songs don't have drums. But they might have vocals. That's because you can take out an instrument and create a song that's still amazing and just flows so effortlessly.
And as you said, words too. You can take out words. There's a score to a movie that I love, and it told the whole story of the movie. This character in different phases of her life. From the time she was young, younger to middle age, and then to an old lady, before she passed. That score by Henry Mancini told the whole, and there was no words. It was just instrumental. And of course, we know Henry Mancini was first and foremost in his field, as a composer. Films like the Pink Panther being one of them, and so I am a person that love lyrics. I love to hear stories, but then that instrumental, some of that is just, you can feel it so deep. Yeah, and you can, add your own words to it, in your head, or visualize, Alex, as I'm trying to say, you can visualize what the composer, is saying, yeah. So very, very interesting. Do you, thus far you were telling me, you know, you've been performing for several years,
Yeah.
you know, within the Fort Wayne music scene, landscape. Um, do,
I don't think, I mean, I guess I wouldn't say several. I guess I would say, you know, pretty, pretty new.
Okay.
Pretty,
okay.
recently, but
Okay.
I definitely don't have several gigs or years of
Okay.
experience to put on
Okay.
paper, but
Okay.
definitely definitely a history. So
Okay. Are there any performances that stand out to you?
many that I haven't been able to go to, but
Okay.
I think there's a lot to think about and a lot to look at. I know there was a Earth, Wind and Fire show. I think it might have been '78 in
Okay.
Rio de
Okay.
Janeiro,
Okay.
and so they it's just fascinating. Like I said, with the languages and whatnot, you know,
Uh-huh.
having them down there speak Portuguese and listening to, you know, American music and stuff, and
Uh-huh.
just the difference of culture, but still being able to enjoy that music just as much as somebody like me would be able to, and I think that's
Okay.
just fascinating. And I
Okay.
think that
So
really-
that's a performance. That's
Yeah,
a
that was a-
performance. Okay. Not a.
it may have been 77, 78.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, I would say check it out if you can.
I know that my father loved that group. My mother too, but my father, I'm sure, had some recordings of theirs over the years. What I liked about Earth, Wind and Fire, I mean, it was just like a caravan of people.
Yeah.
Fronted by Maurice White, of course, and you know Philip Bailey was, you know, a star singer, and Verdine,
Verdine White.
White, you know, was very noticeable. But they had ladies that were in the group too. When I mean, everyone seemed so serious, you know,
Oh,
about
yeah.
music and.
They're all talented
Those songs,
individuals.
September and After the Love Is Gone, I like that one. Yeah, I mean, just, you know, as you said, for them to travel to another country, and I'm sure those fans down there knew the songs. And
Oh, for sure.
music is universal,
Universal.
you know, and so coupled with their stage attire, you
Right,
know,
yeah.
and yeah.
Which I think it's coming back.
Okay.
A lot of that. You know,
Okay.
you've got artists like George Clinton and his aesthetics, and
Mhm.
artists like Thundercat, you know, taking
Okay.
inspiration from that. You know, I've seen that
Sure.
a lot with artists. They get their inspiration, it, you know, derives from artists such as, you know, Funkadelic and Earth, Wind and Fire, and even Prince.
Okay.
And I mean, you see that in the '90s, you see it in the 2000s, you see it now, and I think that's visuals and music, just they blend together so well, and I think that's what makes artists artists.
And I know my favorite gospel singer, male gospel singer, one of my favorites, was influenced by Earth, Wind and Fire, and they, Maurice and Philip, participated on one of this particular group, their live
Yeah.
album. And he had thanked them on the liner notes, but then I know the group, he incorporated bongos, you know, into their gospel group's act. And, you know, I mean, that was, you didn't see that for gospel music in the
No.
70s and 80s. Bongos, you know, you saw robes and people, a piano or
Yeah.
something like that. But, I mean,
A lot of bass, organ.
Uh-huh. But yeah, there was bongos on that live recording. But
Nice.
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's so refreshing. I can hear it in my head. Just
Yes. So I hear you're a fan of Erykah Badu.
yes. Yeah. I would bring my phone over here, but it's, I think she's my wallpaper.
Oh
I'm not
wow,
sure.
you're a
I'm not sure.
fan. You're a
I'm
fan.
so-
You're a fan. Is there a favorite album and or song that you have of Miss Badu?
I would say right now, Orange Moon is
Okay.
my favorite song off of Mama's Gun, which is
Okay.
hand in hand my favorite record right now. I think most of it is looking into. I'm just a big like audio freak and
Okay.
all the gear they used, and so a lot of the gear that they used, you know, on Mama's Gun and producing it is just
Okay.
phenomenal. I mean, they did that with I believe that was 1999 when they were recording it, and it didn't release until 2000. But they were doing that with.
That is right.
I
You
think she
you
was-
know your stuff,
yeah, she was
Alex.
working with I believe Questlove,
Okay.
and I think that was in New York.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean a lot of amazing producers and artists who got to not only work with Erica, but work on that project and make
Okay.
it what it is to this day. I mean, it's 22 years old, 23, 22,
Yes.
22. We'll say 22.
Yes.
I don't want to feel old just yet. So.
But and she is neo soul. She's
Yes,
a
yes.
pioneer.
She is neo soul.
You mentioned being or liking R&B and neo soul, and she is definitely neo soul. You and I talked about her prior, her debut album from 1997. I remember my father gave me the CD, and I listened to it, and I remember On and On. It was in heavy rotation, not only on the radio, but BET and
Yes.
stuff like that. And I was like, okay, this young girl or this young lady's different. You
Right,
know.
of course. yeah.
And with the African, I remember being, I like the African garb, which I still, incorporate that into my personal attire from time to time. And, she had kind of like a jazziness and,
Yeah, it was very
bluesy about her. It was kind of retro.
it was very colorful and analog, and I really liked it.
Yeah, and lyrically, I mean, she would, do little things, and when I say, or stories within the songs, she
Right.
would cause you to think, and so yeah, I mean, I remember that first album, and then I told you there was another song, Tyrone, that was very
Tyrone.
popular,
Very
and
popular.
that got lots of people their attention, and then I do remember Mama's Gun from 2000, but I wasn't
For sure.
listening to her and
Ooh, yeah.
other neo soul people. Not at that time.
Yeah.
We've talked about that.
Right.
Off camera. But certainly she's a pioneer. She's come a long way from being. I remember reading an Ebony magazine article about her shortly after she, hit the musical landscape, and she was a campus HBCU, historically black college. She was a campus queen in Texas, and with the straight hair, and I mean, and so she quickly left that image behind, and so. And has I was looking at something this morning. I wanted to bring some stuff on because I knew we were going to talk about it. There's a young lady. I don't know if this lady raps or sings, but she's heavily influenced by Erykah Badu. And I think you had we were talking about. I think you mentioned this lady before, this girl, in a prior conversation that we had, but. It's still great to hear that people are still being influenced by her, such as herself, after all these years, because she's a prolific storyteller,
For sure.
an
for
artist. And I know we had talked about there was a song some years ago, within the last decade, she did, and she was nude, and she was walking. It was set in Texas, and she was walking by a car,
Right.
and she got shot, and I can't think of the title of the song, but she took a lot of, flack for that, because I don't know if she was trying to compare it to Kennedy's assassination, or maybe people thought that the video looked like that, but she took a lot of flack for that.
I mean, yeah, that was a window seat, and I think that she was just I can't say for sure, but I've seen the video, and I
Okay.
think that her and a lot of other artists get caught up in I think a box or a bubble, and she is in that video walking down the street and slowly taking off clothes, one article at a time, and
Okay.
I think it's just that those baby steps of slowly freeing yourself from
Okay.
whatever it is that's holding you back. And I think I
Okay.
experience that as an artist too. Is
Okay.
there's so many things in my life, and I'm young, but I've experienced stuff that's held me back
Sure.
for sure
Sure.
from your peak, your highest potential as an
Okay.
artist. So
Okay. But you're still progressing.
yes, yeah,
Yes, as an artist.
thankfully.
Yes, still progressing. Yeah, so that was gonna, that leads me kind of into the next question about her. What is it about Erica that inspires you as an
Gotta
artist and
be,
a musician?
I think the music. I think like I was saying before, it feels I could listen to. Of course, I would love to see a live show from Erykah Badu, which I have, thankfully. Thank God, because
So you saw her live.
yes, I saw her live back in 2021.
Okay.
So-
What was that like?
It was a very, very lucky experience, I would say. I was in the nosebleeds with a friend,
Okay.
and by the end of the show, she came back on stage when pretty much half of the arena left.
Okay.
And we ended up getting all the way up front row.
Wow.
So yeah, she ended up shaking my hand, and
No kidding.
yeah, it was. I'll never get to experience that again. So.
Wow, Alex. Maybe she felt that energy. She knew you were a fan.
I felt the energy for sure.
That is so weird because everybody that knows me knows that Whitney Houston, is my favorite. And you and I have talked about why, she's my favorite and such, but within the last few years, I've had a dream, and I have this dream from time to time that I was invited to like her last show, and that she pulled me on stage, and I told her, how
Right.
much of a fan I was, and I had never had, I don't know what, but I never had that dream before, but this
Right.
is like the last, maybe year or so. I mean, which is so odd, because I don't, there was a period in my life when I really was really into her, when anything I got my hand on or watched, or, when then when she died, it brought back a lot of memories again, and it was really sad, and half of the world called me, and but then as I've gotten older, I've grown as a person. I listen to more people, and I don't rely on her as heavily as I used to.
Yeah.
But when you said that, she shook your hand, and I alluded to she knew, that you were a fan, artists and, the ones out there, and it's the fans,
Yeah.
we're the ones that really, day by day, whether we're buying their music or going to a show as you did, we are their livelihood,
Oh, for sure.
And I think a lot of sometimes these, musicians, they get really big and they forget that it's the people.
It's the people.
It's
or
the
they
people.
or they don't take time to, I think, connect to their audience, and I
Right.
think that they get lost in the culture of being
Right.
into music and being the rock star
Right.
kind of lifestyle and
Right.
whatnot. So yeah, it all goes back to the fans and the
Yeah.
people that you're sharing your message and they're receiving it,
Yeah.
and thankfully there's people out there who can decipher it and really
Right.
connect with what you're saying, because I mean there's 8 billion people and your message is so unique from the crowd, and so even if there's only one person out there that understands it, I think that's enough. It shows that there's similarities and there's people who can understand what you're going through, no matter how intricate it can be. So I think that's what I love about music is you can make the music, but it's about who's listening to it and how they connect. And
Right.
so it's really cool.
The beginning of this year, actually, January of 2023, Rolling Stone came out with their list of 200 greatest singers of all time. And I
Spoiler, I'm not on it.
not yet, though, Alex.
Oh, I can't imagine
not
I'd
yet.
ever be on it.
But I wanted to get a list and come down and have for this interview today, and I could not access
You still
the list.
couldn't find it.
I will buy that magazine if I can
Yeah,
get my
if
hands on it.
you-
I still can't find the magazine because I have from 2008. I have the 100 greatest, artists.
Check
you
Twitter.
know,
Check
I
Twitter.
have that at home. I brought that in 2008, and so I read after the article came out in the magazine. Social media, Twitter, and different places were
Right.
just upset
Hectic.
about different
crazy.
artists that were left off. Celine Dion being one of them. I was looking to see if Erykah Badu was on that list because I know you're a fan.
She's got an amazing range. So
I could not. I don't know if she's on the list, though, Alex. And they said that part of the criteria for selecting those artists where they had crossover appeal as artists, you know. And so obviously there's more, criteria. There were judges, people they selected, in the industry.
Yeah.
I know for the 2008 list, there were people in the industry, singers and musicians, and there were, label head people, So what do you think about that? Someone like a Celine Dion that was left off of that list.
well, I'm not sure because I don't think I can really argue because I think that with singers and vocalists, it's I think it's all very arbitrary because I think that there's a huge skill gap, but once you cross that threshold, I think there's so many good singers, there's so many talented singers, and it's about how you use that skill and you apply your own voice to that level of singing. So it's like I said, voices are instruments, and everybody's a different sound, and so
Yeah.
I think that music is all it's all different, and I'm thinking of the word, but it's all arbitrary.
Okay, so for me, I am not a studio singer or vocalist
Right.
yet, because I am getting in. I'm
yes.
going to go into the studio and record. I'd like to get in and record. You and I have talked about that, and have a lounge act one
Nice.
day. But I know a good singer when I hear one. There are, there are singers and there's performers, and I could break it down. To me, that was very disheartening to see Celine Dion left off of that list. I mean, that range,
Yeah, and I mean,
the vocal power.
I can agree. I can agree that having a superstar like Celine Dion not make a list, 200 artists.
Yeah.
Not even 100, but 200. You've got a lot of space to put Celine Dion somewhere, and if you can't,
that is
that's
correct.
surprising.
And some of those people, like, I didn't even know who they were that's on that list.
Gotcha.
Now, you and I have talked about it. There are people the last 10 years or so, that I just didn't pay attention to. I dismissed.
Yeah.
What's that, K-pop? Those pop singers from Japan.
yeah.
They were all guys, and never listened to them. Don't know if they're good or not. But I think pop singers, are marketed, to be, it's very faddish. You'll have a pop singer and then you'll have a singer.
Yeah.
And
Pop, right? They separate the music from the singer, and like I said, it's when composing, the pop, it's just beat and then the vocalist, and that's just how pop has always been marketed, and that's how, I mean, hip hop is kind of being marketed too, is, you know, you've got the rapper and then you've got the beat in the background, and I think when composing a song like that, you've got to think about everything, you know, everything is its own piece, so, so like I was saying with the singers, I think that, you know, it's 200, so they picked 200 singers, and they were saying that, you know, they're the best out of the best.
Now,
you know,
I'm not complaining because
Right.
Whitney was number 2. And
Gotcha.
I certainly, on the 2008 list, she was 34 out of 100. You know, but there are other people. There are people before Whitney Houston that were great. You
Great.
know, Bessie Smith and, you know, Ethel Waters and all these people, you know, before her. But you know, a singer, to me, you can feel that song. I mean, it's different from just faddish type music. I mean, that you're gonna, I Will Always Love You, people will feel that, recognize that, hear that, and understand that 100, 200 years from now. You know, then versus you have something like Traveling Man by, what was his name, Ricky Nelson, from the 50s, that they marketed, you know, to a specific group of people. I
Right.
mean, he was from Ozzie and Harriet, which was his parents were Ozzie and Harriet. That was a popular radio show first, then TV show. You know, he was a good-looking guy that girls, you know, liked, and you know, they had the prop. Well, no, he was playing the guitar, you know, but it was that's something that's very faddish.
Yeah.
You know, now Rick Nelson, he became Rick Nelson. He was Little Ricky. Later on, Rick became a recording star and wanted to shed that teen idol image, you know, and I don't know what a lot of that other stuff, you know, sounded like, because they didn't listen to it. I know he had a set of twins that they were Nelson in the 90s. I remember Nelson, they were twins and they had long hair and didn't listen to their music, but I remember Nelson. But you know, there's good music and then there's faddish music, and with singers,
music that's made, you know, with intent to sell, and I
Yeah.
think that's,
and for me, a singer, I was watching a clip on the Kennedy Center Honors was on. Alex, and I think it was earlier this year. Do you know what the Kennedy Center Honors are? Have you heard of it before?
yeah, you'll have to refresh.
So
Refresh
it's
my memory.
an entertainer is they're recognized by their peers. George Clooney was one of them this year. Gladys Knight was on. I mean, she was one. And Patti LaBelle, I know, was the headliner, one of the headliners, and which Gladys Knight was well deserved of that honor. I saw her at Sweetwater, was it last year?
Oh,
and
you were telling me, yeah, you
yes,
got to see her.
I saw her, and
almost went to it,
she
yeah.
slowed down a little bit, you know, but the voice is still, she could still
Nice.
sing, and but we were talking about, I saw an old clip from 2008, the 2008 Kennedy Center Honors show. They bestowed this honor to this medal, and it was named after President Ronald, was it? No, it was JFK, I believe. But from 2008, Beyonce gave a tribute to Barbra Streisand, who was on that list. I know she's on that list. Barbra Streisand being iconic from the early 60s, and People, which is a song, you know, The Way We Were, you know, was a song that she, and so I heard Beyonce sang, was it The Way We Were? She sang a clip from The Way We Were. And and she, you know, probably didn't know much about Barbra Streisand prior to, you know, she, you know, was asked to perform, and she sang probably 3 minutes, an excerpt from that song. And then at the end, she said, Miss Streisand, it was an honor singing for you, you know, and she walked off. And I was like, that was so odd to see Beyonce in that space, because I'm used to seeing her moving around and hair everywhere and doing the dance. And, you know, my sister and I go back and forth about this. She says, Tay, you are not, you know, you don't think Beyonce's singing in it. And it's like, you know, I watched her because her and I are the same age, you know, come from that group, and, you know, she was a star of that group and now was a supernova. But, you know, to me, she sings, she has a nice voice, but she's an entertainer and performer. A singer is
yeah.
someone who
Right.
can stand there without, and Beyonce can do that too, but that's just not her element. And so there's,
Right.
as that brings my point, there's singers and then there's performers and entertainers. And so I just think that when they said singers, maybe it should have just been people. You know, there were some people
Yeah.
on that list that I respected.
Well, there was one thing, like you said, with you know, that Beyonce and but no, Beyonce, the Beyonce performance, and you know, her being more of a singer and entertainer. I was watching this is kind of back to the shows that I really enjoyed seeing, but I saw a D'Angelo performance.
Okay.
I think maybe 2012.
Okay.
But yeah, and Beyonce was in the crowd, and he was doing I think Sugar Daddy.
Okay.
I think he started with I can't remember what he started with, but he transitioned over that, and it's just super like instrumental and lively, and he's
Sure.
singing, and it's just super powerful, and you're seeing all these reactions from the crowd, and you know, Beyonce's, you know, in the back really, you know, digging it. And so I think that, you know, even if there's a difference between, you know, a performer and artists and a musician and, you know, all that stuff, I think that an entertainer, I think they can really appreciate each other's art
Sure.
and whatnot. So
Sure. I wanted to spotlight this material that you brought in
Yeah.
for us. Can you tell us about what you brought in today?
I have a T-shirt that
Sure, you can
I
hold it
designed.
up. Please hold it up.
And this just showcases some of the album art that I did, and
Okay.
you know, the album song titles. So
Sure.
pretty
With
neat
your
piece.
brand on it.
I guess I would say more an artist name and
Okay.
whatnot. So
Okay.
but yeah, I think it's, you know, there's that, and then the CD.
And then also this CD that Alex has put out as product to buy. There's songs on it such as Future Human, Rose Petals from Heaven
Rose
sounds
Petals from
interesting to me, Sleeping Slave, Memory Card, Unchained.
Unchained.
That too. So I'm going to have to check this out.
Yeah.
And so
Of course.
Alex, I have enjoyed our conversation today. I wish you much success in your career.
Thank you.
And anytime you want to come back and
Yeah.
update us, feel free to join us.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's my
It was
pleasure.
fun to be here. So,
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much.
Girl, you found the right key, and the jangle and the fat me teasing. Let me still be pleasing, not away from me. From the key to your life, let's lock this chastity. Girl, I got the right